life is full of experiences. Some decisions are right, some decisions are wrong, but we got to make decisions as
Welcome, Malahar Pinelli, VP and country leader of 711 GSC. One metric you'd put on a billboard inside the GSC.
how you need to be aware of people dynamics, corporate dynamics, and
That how do you bring that kind of balance of mindset when it comes to your company's culture?
without understanding what happens day to day, what are you going to innovate? What are you going to work on fancy items, right? So
Why did 711 GSC choose India?
it's access to the breadth and depth of the talent.
Seldom leaders forget this that innovation is not just about technology.
It's a product organization. What we run, everything what we build is centric to a product mindset.
I do not know how lazy are we becoming with quick commerce. What is the biggest myth that you have come across in terms of startup enterprise collaborations and working together?
So bringing all of this together is how we retain the top talent.
I heard you like playing golf. Is that true? Or what makes it so interesting for you?
Focus on what matters for that moment. So it is more therapeutic for me. I look forward to my weekend.
What kind of a decision framework goes on into your head at that point in time to take a call about what needs to be done?
I think data is never enough. Data is evolving over time, right?
Could you talk to us a little bit about what a day in a store looks like where technologies and transformations that you have been creating are now visible in the life of a store? This podcast is powered by Retro. Retro helps global companies build, scale, and run tech centers in India. By aligning top talent and technology with enterprise innovation goals, Retro drives faster, smarter growth, where tenacity meets tech and ambitions meet opportunity. Lexart Partners, where startups and global corporations find their trusted legal partner. From seed to scale and from startups to GCCs, Lexar delivers strategic end-to-end legal solutions, being their partner in growth. Discover Dollar uses AI to uncover and prevent leakages and overpayments across the source-to-pay cycle for GCCs and global enterprises, recovering cash and protecting margins. Stylunia is transforming retail with AI agents trusted by Fortune 500 brands to reinvent product creation, assortments, pricing, and curation, powered by real demand. Orbix, its agentic platform, is driving a movement, globally awarded for proprietary demand science. Swirl helps enterprises like Alphatain, BYD to co-create AI agents that can act like your best salespeople. Imagine an AI that anticipates customers' questions and nudges with relevant information to guide them with the purchase. Get a demo today. Nirantara unites India's timeless crafts with contemporary life, sustainably preserving living heritage. For home organics, where every product is a warrior guarding your skin barrier with care and science. Hi everyone, my name is Abhay Tandon and welcome to yet another amazing episode of the Innovators and Disruptors podcast. Today's conversation is part of the GCC Mini-Series and I have a fantastic leader with me who's going to talk to us a lot more in depth about what is GCC leadership all about, what is product-led innovation and how you're building and creating value from India for the world as well, right? And for that, let me now welcome Malahar Pinelli, who is the VP and country leader of 711 GSC, Global Solution Center. Thank you so much, Malahar, for joining in.
Thanks, Abhay, for having me here. Glad to be here.
No, perfect. And for the audience, let me also tell them a little bit more about you. You've been a leader for a while now, but the most interesting part for me, based on our interactions that I've seen is not only have you been an enterprise leader for a while, but you've also been a startup founder, which means that when you look at how you approach problems, I have personally seen that as well in some of our interactions. There's a lot of agility, there's a lot of speed, there's a lot of thinking about scale in those large environments and the startup hustle coming together to take meaningful decisions. So I'm super happy to have you here and have this chat with you.
And again, once again, thanks for being here. Yeah, the diverse experience always helps to bring them together for the best cause.
I'm sure. And I'm sure 7-Eleven would be very happy about this as well. And I'm sure there's a lot of impact created. So we'll talk about that as well. And for the audience sake, I would request you or urge you to start off by give us a little bit of a perspective about, if people did not know what 7-Eleven Global Solution Center in India is, can you talk to us a little bit about that? What is it and how did it get set up and so on and so forth?
Sure. First of all, I would like to talk about 7-Eleven itself.
Hmm.
We are the largest convenience retailer in the world with operations across 20 different countries with 85,000 stores across the globe and 98-year-old operation. So that's 7-Eleven. Coming to GSC, GSC stands for Global Solution Center. which is a typical GCC, Global Capability Center for every organization, but we call it GSC, Global Solution Center. Before I get into what we are at GSC, I would like to introduce our purpose statement. Our purpose statement is making lives better for our employees, stakeholders, and communities. That's our purpose at GSC. I'll elaborate a little bit more throughout our conversation on what that means. But coming to GSC, we are close to about 1,000 people now. 60% is on the technology side. Remaining 40% is on the GBS side, which is Global Business Services. On the technology side, we have teams across product managers, engineering, all aspects of data, cybersecurity, which is key in today's world. And on the GBS side, all parts of retail operations, what you would need, finance, merchandising, supply chain, and store operations. So that's how our team is split.
Fantastic. I think that is a fairly large scale. 1,000 employees in a GCC also talks about the maturity of the GSC, right, or a GCC, right? Uh, how different was it when you started it off with the GSC came into being in the initial 12 months versus now? And I understand that you have been at the helm of it for some time now.
11 months now.
For 11 months now. So what is the transition that you have seen and noticed, as you've gone through the maturity curve?
I've been part of at least 8 GCCs, which I have built from scratch.
Right.
The journey is very identical for every GCC startup, at least 12 to 18 months. Of course, there are some variances on where you start and where you are going. And the first 12 to 18 months is typically, how do I set up even a legal entity? How do I get my first set of people? What compliance is going to look like in the country? What cross-border compliance is going to look like? How do I recruit people? Where do I start? Right? Who is going to help? So all those aspects are part of the setup for every GCC, and it's a journey, right? And we started with a partner to start with, and eventually we took it in-house over time. But end of 12 to 18 months, we were close to 100 plus people. We started with the technology. We were here to actually bring the technology to the talent to deliver the digital transformation for us, and especially get the people in the niche skills. So where we started was especially in the cybersecurity area, which were niche skills even when we started, and as well as a good amount of engineering on the merchandising, supply chain, that technology side. That's how we started. And those days, the focus was, how do I bring the right people into the organization and transition the work from our partners? Because the entire GSC, the initial bet was transition our outsourced partners' work into our organization in source, but at the same time, not miss the beat, right? It was all about bringing the right talent to the organization, transitioning the work, making sure we are delivering without missing the beat. And today, it's a different world altogether. We have been here for close to 5 years now. We are 1,000 plus people, and we have our footprint across all technology. When I say all technology, all aspects of data, whether it is engineering to analytics to AI, ML, parts of it, cybersecurity, whether it's your SOC center or engineering, attack engineering and defenses of our assets. Or you talk about your digital platform. We have a business called 7Now, which is a concept similar to quick commerce, but we deliver in 30 minutes, not 10 minutes like in India. We deliver from live stores versus dark stores. So all that digital platform to drive that piece with the product manager sitting out of here, as well as store technology with the labs set up here, and the leaders actually driving, co-owning or owning independent platforms and products. So that's where we are compared to where we were in the first 12 to 18 months. And the same story on the GBS side as well. Now we have teams across all finance, whether you talk about account payables, whether you talk about all accounting process, fuel accounting, we sell fuel. Fuel accounting process completely different from property accounting, different from merchandising accounting, all different aspects of accounting. Your tax teams, your internal audit teams, your merchandising teams, whether it is merchandising operations who bring a product to life on your systems, or even driving analytics out of what we are doing and making sure we have the insights and actionables out of the activities we drive merchandising. The store operations teams, asset protection teams, and many more business functions are set up out of here. Again, large teams owning processes, functions, and platforms is the direction we are going compared to the first 12 and 18 months, which was more like a setup phase and just getting it off the ground.
Wow. How long has the GSC been established in India for?
It's 5 years now.
That's fantastic to see so many different kind of teams already established in a GCC in the first 5 years. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that, because that was a very wide range of activities, either mirrored or creating transformation for the global enterprise already being in India. And that was a very interesting point that you also mentioned, which I kind of resonated with. Multiple of those, including the fact that the transition becomes very critical. Uh, because more often than not, when you talk about BOT and such partnerships, the transition is where more often than not GCCs end up going through a major slump, right? And if you get that right, which ensures that your own associates globally, your consumers are still getting the right experiences without dropping those experiences, dropping those bars on that, and still continue to maintain pace. I think that's kudos to you and your team for delivering that, right? So.
Very true.
Uh, I also wanted to get into another piece, which is, where in this maturity journey around build, run, and innovate is the GSC lying today? Specifically, when I talk about your portfolio composition, you gave a wide range of portfolios. What percentage of a portfolio lies between, let's say, core ops, which is very critical to the functioning of the larger organization and for GSC as well, to digital transformation, something that you said that there's a lot of onus on, two newer bets, which comprises of innovation in true blue sense of it or disruptive sense of it. What kind of a portfolio distribution do you see today?
That's a tough question to answer. I don't know if I can put a percentage because I've seen this multiple times, right? When you set up GCC, GCC has its own maturity curve where you start with doing what you've been given to contributing, innovating. And again, each capability, what you build within the GCC has its own maturity curve too. So that's why it's hard to put a percentage on where we are, whether it's build, run, or innovate versus core ops, transformation, or value creation, right?
Right.
But if I look at all the teams across, I mean, we do have teams across because we're still building some capabilities, new capabilities. We'll continue to build new capabilities, whichever we have not built out, or new process because we are evolving as an organization too. But if you look at most of the GBS side, is I would say more of the run part of it, core
Right.
operations part of it, right?
Right.
So that's our 40% of the team. On the data side, it's all transformation, it's all innovation because we are not telling the descriptive story anymore.
Exactly.
It is about creating analytics, insights, actionables, and even predictive models on top of it. The digital, it's a product. It's a living, breathing organism in a way. So are you going to put it in the run part of it? Are you going to put it in the build part of it? Are you going to put it in the innovation part of it? Right.
True.
It's a product organization. What we run, everything what we build is centric to a product mindset. So it's hard for us to kind of bifurcate. But if you really look at it, right, all aspects are critical. And when you have a product side mindset and value mindset, you need to continue to build, you need to continue to run, you need to continue to innovate, transform. All aspects come into the picture. So that's what we believe in, which is build the right mindset with ownership and deliver value for parent organization in whatever we do, but continue to innovate irrespective of whether it's a run operations, core services, or a product which you are building.
No, that's a fantastic point. I think that's so important for today's young builders to also observe from this or learn from this, because more often than not, people think that anything which is disruptive is fancy, but sometimes the core operations which are ensuring that the company is running very, very well as a smooth sailing engine, right, or smooth sailing ship, right? More often than not, people under-index that. In fact, I had long back heard about this key phrase such as cogs, clogs, and lightning rods, right? So cogs are cogs of the wheel or cogs of a watch, which is so important and critical part of the machinery, which ensures that things are moving continuously. It is sometimes not exciting, but it is the most critical piece of that machinery, right? And then there are lightning rods, which spark innovation and transformation. And then there are clogs who manage to do both, right? And you have to maintain that balance, right? So it's a very interesting point that you've
That's
just
a good
shared.
story.
Thank you.
And if I have to pick between those two, I would start with being core operations because without understanding what happens day to day, What are you going to innovate? What are you going to work on fancy items, right? So
True.
you need to understand core of operations first to drive any value creation and innovation.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, base is super critical. Unless you have a strong base, you can't establish a
Yeah.
skyscraper on that, right?
Innovation is not just about technology, it's about delivering value to customers and business. And that
Very
only
true.
comes from running operations, delivering value.
No, seldom leaders forget this very important aspect that you just shared, right? That innovation is not just about technology. Technology is just a tool to be leveraged to get to a particular point B or point C, right? More often than not, it's about value creation. A lot of times people think that, we're going to be leveraging AI, we're going to be leveraging these technologies or that technologies, right? To showcase that, we are technology first as an organization. But at the end of the day, it's about value creation for all your key stakeholders in that ecosystem. Fantastic. And coming to stakeholders, right? I also noticed one more very interesting point. You spoke about seven now, which was fantastic for me to hear. Back in the day, when I was in Target in 2016 or 2017, I remember a very interesting nugget of information that came by me. We were told to raise our glasses when Target was able to distribute uh, fresh produce in one day. And, my concern with that was that I was already seeing big basket in India with convoluted addresses on the maps, where difficult roads as terrains to navigate were able to deliver fresh produce in less than 2 hours through the faster delivery mechanisms, right? And I said that, why are you so happy? In fact, one of the key points that I learned even back in the day was there's so many stores, distribution centers, black stores, live stores, cross distribution, cross dock centers, and so on and so forth. Why are those real estates not being leveraged to serve the consumers faster? In fact, eventually that's what Target did as well by 2017-18. But so happy to understand that 7 hours shipping products in 30 minutes, because that's a very, very relevant need. I do not know how lazy are we becoming with quick commerce, but 30 minutes is a good number, right? It's at least 10 minutes is subjective in terms of or debatable, right? Whether we really require everything in 10 minutes or not, but 30 minutes is a good number to go after.
Yeah, we are a convenience store. It's all about convenience, right? So when it is convenience, you need that product now. You're going
Yeah.
to consume the product now. So you got to be there for them when they need it and deliver where they need it.
True, true, true. That's a fantastic point. In fact, coming to stores, uh, could you talk to us a little bit about what a day in a store looks like, where technologies and transformations that you have been creating are now visible in the life of a store, right? Be it a franchisee, be it a store associate, or be it a shopper.
Uh, I, if I have to think about it, I think we touch every aspect of store
Mm-hmm.
and every persona in the store and outside store as well. Um, POS is one of the example, and we have teams here sitting and developing our POS systems for both the store associate and as well as the consumer facing device functionality as well. So that's one of the touch points where we impact on how they operate, both for the customer experience and the store associate point of view, and as well as store backend systems where the ordering happens, where the accounting happens, where they get to see what's happening within the store, what inventory is there, what the self sequencing looks like, and when to stock what product, where to stock. All aspects of this back of the store systems are also developed here and co-developed, of course. And we have something called retailer initiative, and this is the best practices of how you run convenience. And this also comes with nudges to the store associate on what you need to do when,
Mm-hmm.
and even those cards or the nudges are developed and sent to their back office systems out of here, whether it's handheld device or a desktop. Um, and even if you look at convenience business, we have fresh food, we have beverages, right? We have frozen drinks. We have multiple aspects of what gets sold in convenience,
Hmm.
and these are delivered daily, some cases, and directly to the store. Some come from our CDC, some come through the provider itself, like Pepsi, Coke. They are delivered to the store directly, and we have wholesalers who delivers to the store. And these are not big box retailers where we have tens and hundreds of people working. These are one or two people working in the store, right? How do you ensure while you are serving the customers, but you're also taking the goods which are being delivered to you? So a lot of solutions which are created, and those are being developed out of our GCC or GSC with co-ownership. And again, we touch there for both logistic partners, our own employees in the store, and as well as market leaders or area leaders who get the insights about what store is working, what they're doing, how they're doing. Every aspect of the store we touch, including for the customers. I talked about POS system, but also rewards. A omni-channel rewards platform
Right.
is being created so that they can access their reward points across the fuel, across online, across the store, and promotions, stacking the promotions, seamless promotions across the channels as well. So we touch every part of experience, what happens in the store, outside the store, for our stakeholders, for our franchisees, for our customers. Even franchises, I think of it, we do have technical support center whom they call in to get help. We have that too, based out of GSC. So all aspects of running our business we touch
That's fantastic.
of GCC or GSC.
No, that's amazing. I think that's what eventually the maturity is all about. In fact, since we are speaking about value creation, one of the most basal layers of value creation is the talent that you build, through which you're able to deploy that kind of value creation, right? If you can talk to me about the talent bar at 7-Eleven GSC in India, uh, what are some non-negotiable skills that you think are super critical for 7-Eleven GSC for any talent to enter and be a part of that ecosystem?
For GCC's, talent is the key, right?
Right.
And that's why all the GCC exists, to get access to the talent. But when we look at the talent, when we are recruiting, I guess the baseline is the skills and the capability, what you have to match to the job function, what you're going to do. That's table stakes. But we also look at 80% match, not 100%, because there need to be incentive for the people to come and join to learn as well, right? Not necessarily we look at a 100% match. But beyond that, there are certain aspects we do look at, which also tag to our core principles too. One is learnability, being able to learn, because the process is going to change. How we do things is going to change. The technology itself is going to change. With the rapid innovation in today's world, what you're working on is not necessarily what you're going to work on tomorrow. So having that learnability and flexibility is non-negotiable.
Makes a lot of sense.
And the second aspect we critically look at is being a team player. There are a lot of individual contributors in the organization. That's how every organization is stacked.
True.
But individual contributor need to know where they fit in, how they need, what they need to produce, what their input, what their output, right? And how do they work in the broader team structure is
Makes
key.
sense.
Just being an individual contributor who cannot work with the team is not going to help. I mean, you could be a rock star, right? And the third one, which is also one of our leadership principle, is accountability. Be accountable for what you do and hold others accountable too. The mindset, I have seen this multiple times, grown up with it, which is the mindset of, hey, somebody need to give me something, they didn't give me what I needed, so it's not my fault. If you need something, you need to go figure out how you're going to get what you need. Chase the people, figure out how to influence, ask others how you can help them to get what you need from them, right? So being accountable is another which is not non-negotiable for us. These three are bottom line, but if I have to think about probably for leads, managers, and leadership, one of the key aspects I can think of is live in ambiguity and bring clarity. Because in today's world, not everything is clear, but you need to clear the path for your team so that they can march, right? So for leads and Debo, we look at, are they able to figure out clarity in ambiguity? Because that's how you build the products.
Makes a lot of sense.
That's non-negotiable. And the icing on the cake could be eye for efficiency and innovation in everything what you do. Question how it's being done, which is also part of one of our leadership principles, which is challenge the status quo, is a key aspect so that we can drive innovation. So that's an icing on the top. So that's how we look at the talent landscape. The table stakes are what you're supposed to do, but beyond that, there's a lot more for us to create longevity for the talent pool, what we are bringing in.
I want to go into a little bit around the culture bit as well, right? Again, I think this is a very, very strong pillar that you've spoken about. I've personally visited the office a few times and I've noticed that too. Right from amazing office space. I mean, I think every time I come there, I see a new place, a new inspiring zone, so to say, that at least in my head, I get inspired by some of these very unique infrastructure capabilities that have been created in terms of the office space. Be it, I don't know what car is that, but it's a fancy looking car in your office.
Mustang.
It's a Mustang, right? So it's a fancy car to the area where people could actually do karaoke and listen to music or
Brew
cafe kind of stuff.
garage.
Sorry?
Brew garage.
Brew garage, right? So these are very inspiring places, and I think I would love to be in an office like that, right? What was the motivation or thought process behind getting these the infrastructure created this way?
I think multiple aspects played out to create such an office space. The first one I would say is our purpose statement, making lives better for our employees.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is removing friction and integrating their work and life as much as possible,
Hmm.
right? So we pick people from their doorsteps, not from a common point. So
Right.
that's again to remove the friction. But coming to office space, we have a fully equipped gym, probably the best gym in town.
Oh wow.
I use that. It removes the friction from me driving 30 minutes to my personal trainer, but we have a trainer all the time in our gym. We have a basketball court, we have pickleball court, we have ping pong, we have other small tables, we have pool table, we have a lot of video games, we have brew garage, which we talked about, we have a playground, multiple aspects to bring frictionless experience to our employees, including we have doctors visiting, a nutritionist, a psychologist, for whatever our team needs.
Yeah.
So we have designed to the edges to bring that frictionless experience for our employees to integrate their life and work together as much as possible. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect is we are a bold brand.
Hmm.
Our colors are vibrant.
Yeah.
And when you walk through our office, you see 7-Eleven, you experience 7-Eleven. That's how
Right.
we have created our office space, which is critical again for the talent here, the GCC employees to connect with the parent organization. That has to be part of every step they take, right? So it's part of building that culture, building that connection with the parent organization. And the third I could think of is culture of abundance, right? Convenience store, when you walk into 7-Eleven store, it's always full. The aisles
Right.
are always full. You get everything what you need, right? So bringing that experience to our employees is another aspect on how our office is laid out, whether it's all amenities in abundance or including the food, which we put money into their wallet, whether it's a full meal to a snack to a sandwich, a healthy salad to a juice, smoothie, or a fruit bowl. Pick
Right.
your choice of the food or any drink available on the floor for our employees. Again, the creating the culture of abundance. Our coffee machines, our fountain drink machines are available for our employees to consume too. So if you put all of that together, the purpose of making lives better, our vibrant brand, and as well as culture of abundance, we brought that together to create this experience for our employees, which is frictionless by integrating life and work as much as possible.
No, that's fantastic, right? In fact, I don't know how feasible is it, but I would love to access the gym too.
I get a lot
Putting
of
my hat in there.
I get a lot of requests from people, especially when the CEOs are visiting or CTOs are visiting for
Yeah.
neighboring offices. Hey, can my boss use it when he's here because he doesn't like the one wherever they're staying.
Yeah. No, but I think in a city like Bangalore, it does take a lot of effort to, change over or at least head to your nearest gym in the traffic and then come back, right? So, I mean, that is a very conducive environment that you've created. And like you mentioned, the culture of abundance is fantastic to hear of. In fact, I think that would play out very well in your favor when it comes to hybrid work culture as well. Because people would want to be in office in that case, right? When they are getting all these benefits and the benefits and the amenities available out there. But
Yeah,
thank you.
just not amenities. When I talked about amenities, the other thing I like to point out as well, if you see our office, we have a model store within the office
The
where,
exposure as well.
yeah, the exposure to the brand and the store, the layout and how it gets set up. And we also have a lab set up so that our teams can test between the dispenser and the POS machine outside the store, inside the store, how that all comes together. So all aspects are taken into consideration when we build this facility.
Fantastic. In fact, I think for me, it all links up in my head, even back to the module about know your business, right? Because this is the kind of exposure that you want to create for them, both culturally and in terms of functional aspects of the business as well. Thank you so much for sharing that. Very, very quick couple of questions that I wanted to also touch upon. One on the culture bit, which is You yourself, like we initiated the conversation about bringing a lot of hustle, agile mindset when it comes to the large scale enterprises. Of course, you've led lot of large scale enterprises, but as a founder, you bring that. How do you bring that kind of a mindset or balance of mindset when it comes to your company's culture, specifically around GSC,
The founder mindset,
the founder mindset?
the startup mindset.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it also goes back to one of our leadership principles, which is act like an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
So any initiative we take, any work we do, it's tied back to some value metrics on what a success looks like, and what end game looks like, and what you're going to measure as you progress to that end game. So
Hmm.
that's in our DNA as how we run the entire organization, right from our leadership team, senior leadership team. Um, but that doesn't mean that we don't invest in trying out new things and being ready. A simple example is um, part of 7 Now, which I talked about. We also already tested a autonomous delivery through a drone.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Um, doesn't mean that we are going to do that
Yeah,
today, because commercially not viable.
exactly.
There is not enough scale in the market to do that, but we are ready. We want to be ready when it hits the market, right? So
Fantastic.
we think about future, and we do invest in the future, but what's the right value metrics is what we look at.
Makes sense.
We do talk about a lot of formats of checkout. We were talking earlier before this conversation about the checkout, right?
Hmm.
We tried every format of checkout, but are we going to install every format of the checkout in every store? Not necessarily,
Hmm.
because these stores are uniquely positioned within a specific neighborhood. It has very specific set of customers, sell specific set of varied. I mean, there's 80% common, but also 20% various in merchandise what we sell to that location of the store, and their purchase patterns are different. The demographics are different, so different checkout formats work. It's just because we have solution of every checkout, whether it is self checkout, assisted self checkout, assisted checkout, mobile checkout, uh, pick and grab and go checkout, all formats we have, but we don't deploy everything. We deploy where there is value for that format. So we look at from that perspective of how do we solve problems, right? Problems for our customers,
Hmm.
which creates value for the business, is how we run top down. Our success is defined right from the get go of bringing up an initiative, and how it gets funded as well.
Love that. Love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. One last one before I wanted to also tap into your background, Vala. That's also of a lot of intrigue to me. But what would you want 7-Eleven GSC to be known for 3 years from now that is not known for today?
I'm going to be short on that answer. Um, there are a lot of GCCs growing. Numbers are growing. The market is growing. There are very few gold standard GCCs for technology. There are gold standard for GBS.
Hmm.
But 3 years is a long time. But what we want to be known as is a gold standard for both technology and GBS together, and having global leadership roles, running platforms, products, processes,
Hmm.
delivering value for our business and our customers is what we will be known for in
Fantastic.
coming years.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm looking forward to that actually. Like you said, right? I've been to a lot of global places. I've seen 7-Eleven around, and when I visit the 7-Eleven office in India, it feels good, right? It's actually a very peppy, good feeling, high energy feel that you just feel being there. And I would love for I'll root for you from the outside for 7-Eleven to get set those bars right of gold
Thank
standard,
you.
right? So, but I do want to get into a little bit of what your personal life as well, Malar. I think most organizations and they become what they become because of not just the talent, but the leader who's leading that talent as well, right? Who's creating that vision, like you mentioned, who's removing that volatility and creating those clear pathways for them. So, this leader being you, changing the direction, challenging the status quo, and building it for 7-Eleven GSC. I want to talk to you about this very particular interesting piece of information that I came to know about. That your family came from farming. I know a lot of my friends today and a lot of other people in the ecosystem who want to go back into farming, right? Uh, what do you feel? Do you miss those days? Do you want to go back to it? Or are there key learnings from there? Because I'm sure that that must have played a very strong role as in your early days when you were building out your thought process as well.
Multiple questions there. I don't know.
Sorry.
I'm still debating about whether I want to go back farming or not. but I do miss that life.
Hmm.
As a kid, I grew up in a farming family, a combined family of 7 siblings of my dad.
Wow.
And it's a different environment altogether. I was there actually last week, spent 3 days in my hometown,
Nice.
and again got to experience a little bit of that life, where we were cooking out in the open, right? And your water is getting heated by
Hmm.
firewood
Fair
so that you can have warm water to shower. And a room full of people, some are playing, some are sleeping, some are cooking, some are having conversation in the same room, 20 plus people.
Wow.
The entire environment is different, right? It's a great feeling to be connected to the family
True.
and live. I mean, homes in small towns and villages are small, not as big as what we get,
Yeah.
where everybody has a roof, right? But the entire environment is different, and I love that environment. But is farming commercially viable? Can we stay there as a lifestyle change for us? Probably I have to answer those questions in the future when it's right time. But if you talk about key learnings as I grew up in this environment, I think there are two I can think of which always help me. The first one is respect for work.
Hmm.
I grew up in a farming family. My father was an officer in Gram Panchayat, but I still went to field after work during the summer break, worked in the farm.
Hmm.
I used to take milk and distribute in the town because we had cows, and I did that work.
No.
There need to be respect for every work. Every work is important, and there is no big work or small work. Is
Hmm.
what I learned. The first lesson. The second lesson I learned is there is no supplement for hard work.
Hmm.
My grandfather had nothing. He could educate all his children and still left some for them, in terms of land and some properties, and made sure the kids were settled in a good place. And he is the most hardworking person I have ever seen. And his ethic is hard work itself.
Wow.
That's what I have learned. There, there's no free lunch.
Hmm.
You need something, you got to work for it.
True.
But it's your choice whether you're going to work hard or not, is your choice, and it has its own results, right? But those are the key learnings, two key learnings I had. There's no less work, no big work. The respect for work is equal irrespective of what you do, and there is no supplement to hard work, irrespective of what you do.
That's fantastic and profound at the same time. Thank you so much, Amala, for sharing such a personal learning with all of us. I think that just goes on to show who you are as a leader. So thank you so much for sharing that. Uh, I'm gonna go a little more into your growing up phase as well, right? At what junction in life did you realize that you're not just executing projects, but you're actually building systems now?
The After my campus, I joined TCS.
Hmm.
Um, I got into tools group, where I was building Excel macros to utilities, which I was not happy with.
Hmm.
Um, I always somehow had this: I have to take the most difficult job,
Hmm.
and do it well. So there was this big project which is open source, early 2000s, and Java J2E just launched, right? It was all still CC, desktop applications, or COBOL, dummy terminals, still existed those days.
Right.
And somehow I figured out a way to get into that project by through influences, talking to people, and I had an opportunity to join their architecture team
Hmm.
versus a functional team. I had both options, but I chose the architecture team. Again, I wanted to pick the most challenging work, right?
Hmm.
And imagine this: it's a the largest insurance company in the Middle East.
Hmm.
They were on Adabase as a database, which is Arabic stored in the image format,
Okay.
and
Okay.
yeah, they were working on dummy terminals
Okay.
with mainframe on the other end, and we needed to build an open source solution to replace the entire ERP system across all different departments they had.
Wow.
That's a great opportunity I had, and we called it a project those days, but it was delivered over 4 years incrementally, like a product. And I had the opportunity to build. Those days the frameworks didn't exist. The Spring framework didn't exist. It
Hmm.
was it was JSPs, they were called pages.
Hmm.
And then servlet, each JSP would have its own servlet. There was no single gateway to your entire infrastructure,
Right.
protected infrastructure. There were EJBs world. So learned all of that and actually built a framework similar to Spring today. And those days, we didn't
Yeah.
call it Spring. Built orchestration engine, which we called workflow engine those days,
Hmm.
where we automated or configured 900 different processes across businesses, which had child, parent, task for the system, task for human being, integrating all of this, forking, joining,
Hmm.
900 different processes configured on the workflow engine to orchestrate either system task or a human task.
Hmm.
That was the foundation of what I have learned as a technologist. And when you build those frameworks bottom up, it gives you a great experience. And when you see the technology today, you can imagine what is behind it, right?
Makes sense.
And also had the opportunity to transform that database image
Yeah.
format into relational database. And most importantly, I was reading user manuals of SunSpark systems
Okay.
to actually build the data center, configure
Wow.
the firewalls and the servers itself. That's a great experience I had being in that architecture team. Helped me build the foundation of technology, but also how we executed the project is system driven, not a project driven. And just to add to that, right, we had dummy terminals, and some of the branches were having dial-up modems. This was early 2000, right? The internet is not
Yeah.
gigabytes. And we were building these huge pages with which need to be delivered to them, and we had to be creative in how we actually created the experience and be fast in that dial-up modems as well. So that entire experience, including the change management from a dummy terminal to a interactive experience for the users, how it was delivered. I mean, I was fortunate to be in that project or product, to be honest, to get all this experience.
Fantastic. I also want to, I mean, that's fantastic. I think a lot of youngsters today will not really understand what you're talking about, but I, of course, was able to partially relate to it because I'm a little younger, but I at least get what you're saying. I don't even think that, the young builders today would even
I'm
understand
sure
what
of
a
it.
dial-up modem looks like, right? Or the sounds that it created back in the day. So that's fantastic learning, and I think that also gives us a perspective about how system thinking is formed in your head, and how people should look at it from a product lens, right? Which is very important today. As we start building any new solutioning, it has to be done from a product lens standpoint, right? From a systems lens standpoint, as against a very project specific build up, right? Uh, I want to go deeper into a little bit of your decision making rubric that goes on in your head, right? Sometimes, like you said, right, in a volatile situation where there's a lot of ambiguity, we have incomplete data sources, limited amount of data. What kind of a decision framework goes on into your head that point in time to take a call about what needs to be done?
I think data is never enough. We
Yeah.
never will have complete. I mean, data is evolving over time, right? But I think it's very simple for me. I'm going to be short on this too. I only have X and Y axis.
Mm-hmm.
X is, let's say, the risk, and the Y is the value.
Mm-hmm.
Value in terms of top line, bottom line, customer experience, retention, whatever. And that's how I make personal decisions as well in my life, and financial decision too. So if you put this in the four quadrants, you have low risk, high reward, high value. That's what I would attack first.
Yeah.
And high risk, high reward, I would take that second. Low risk and low reward, I would take third. I would never attempt the high risk and low reward. So that's how my decision making rubrics would look like.
Makes a lot of sense, and that's fantastic. I think I'm just gonna draw this up for the audience to visualize it. This is fantastic. In fact, how does this play out? Where you may have probably taken a decision, which in hindsight may have gone wrong. But has there been a case like that, and how have you rectified that?
Life is full of experiences. Some decisions are right, some decisions are wrong, but we got to make decisions as leaders, right? But if I have to talk about a personal learning experience, I was a tech guy and I became an executive, I guess, at fairly young age. And I didn't know people dynamics because it has been always tech for me, right? I transitioned from a tech guy to an MD role or country leader role and for a GCC. And I was being hey, everything is open, everything is okay, right? And being highly, being in that environment of mindset of just let's solve problems. And over time, I realized, that did not work in that environment. Over time, I realized you need to understand people dynamics.
Right.
Every corporate has its relationships. Every corporate has its dynamics, its alliances, and who are the decision makers you need to understand, who are the influencers you need to understand, and you need to navigate it. And one of the relevant video I have seen is of Indra Nui,
Mhm.
where she talked about it in multiple podcasts. She talks about how you need to be aware of people dynamics, corporate dynamics, and politics, but not be involved in those, but understand to navigate it to be effective. So
Makes
that's
sense.
how I learned to be more effective through those experiences.
That's fantastic. I think that's something that took me a lot of while to understand and grapple with. But thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to go into a little bit of rapid fire segment. I think no conversation is complete without rapid fire. But I'm going to throw in a bunch of very interesting questions at you and expect some amazing rapid fire answers
Okay,
too.
let's try.
A lot of pressure there, but I'm sure you're leading such a complex set of functions and creating so much of value that this should be a very easy cakewalk for you. So,
Let's try.
all right. So, could you talk to us about or share any 2 or 3 personal habits that keep you very effective under pressure?
I would talk about two. One is focus on what is important, what is core, why you
Mm-hmm.
are doing it, the purpose part of it. So you be clear about that.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one I learned as a kid. I read this story of where a teacher gives a bunch of sticks to students to break them,
Mm-hmm.
and they try to break the entire bunch. They
Right.
can't, and the teacher asks them to break stick by stick.
Hmm.
So that's something which I learned. I'm a math student.
Right.
I love math, so I learned from that story is you break the problem into multiple pieces, solve each piece, and put them together. So that's another way I look at on how I solve problems.
Fantastic. First principles in second order. Okay. A recent podcast or book or mentor insight that you've operationalized at work.
A lot of them help me for sure, but one of the book I read very early was Shiva's trilogy. Um, that's a fairly modern adoption of Shiva's story. There are multiple aspects of what you can take from that book, but one of them I took is what you do today, what is right today, not necessarily is right for tomorrow, right?
Right.
Irrespective of what, even though you build something, you got to continuously evolve, assess, and evolve
Mm-hmm.
what the solutions you have in place, what operations you have in place, what process you are in place, because what you have today is not necessarily right for not just what you had yesterday is not necessarily right for today, but for sure not going to be right for tomorrow, right? Have that eye for evolution, looking at things critically and assess and evolve.
Thank you so much. I'll have to share that with Amish Tripathi as well. That's a fantastic point. So thank you so much. One metric you'd put on a billboard inside the GSC.
I would choose two.
Sorry?
Not I would choose two of
Two.
them, not
Okay.
not one. One is too.
Two less.
Two less. Goes back to the value.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you're doing, the value, whether it's top line, bottom line, customer satisfaction, whatever that is, that's one aspect of it. The second one is how you get that done. The culture. What does your team feel about it? Right? Are they enjoying what they do? Matters.
Right. Leadership cliche that you disagree with.
Leaders should know everything. Should be expert at everything. I don't think so. Uh, the leaders are there to bring experts together, create that cross-functional collaboration to drive outcomes.
That's fantastic. A hiring red flag that you'd spot in 5 minutes.
Commonly experienced two of them. One is people are very peripheral, can't go in deep with examples, then that's a red flag. The second one I would stay away from is playing victim of, oh, that wasn't right there, that wasn't right there. Like, take you got to take accountability for
Okay.
everything happens around you.
Fantastic. I heard you like playing golf. Is that true? Or what makes it so interesting for you?
Yeah, I do play golf. I'm passionate about it. Um, Now I've been on a break for almost 4 months because of a small accident. But what I love about golf is in my day to day, I'm dealing with multiple things. In our life, all of us are dealing with multiple things, right? 10 things, 100 things, 1,000 things are running parallelly.
Hmm.
But golf is something where you are focused for that moment on that one shot,
Right.
execute it well, focus on that moment.
Right.
and focus on what matters for that moment. So it is more therapeutic for me. I look forward to my weekend because that also helps me to kind of how I focus back in my day to day as well.
That's amazing. Uh, Favorite retail innovation globally? It could be outside of 7-Eleven as
Um, I'm deliberating around two right now. One is a little bit old, but if I have to pick today's world, I think quick commerce
well.
is the biggest innovation, which had changed entire consumption pattern in India,
Yeah.
especially the 10-minute delivery from dark stores. Again, this goes back to what we do in Seven now,
Yeah.
which is 30-minute delivery, not from dark stores, but from our live stores is what we do.
Fantastic. Coffee chat with any tech or retail leader, who would it be and why?
Probably tech leader, Elon Musk, and just to understand how he thinks, how he makes these bold bets, make sure people invest in them and motivated to do those. It's amazing on how he invests in this long shots, moon shots.
That's amazing to hear. 3 words your team would use to describe you.
3 words. Probably I'm going to borrow from our leadership principles: entrepreneurial,
Hmm.
accountable, and probably not in seven principles, but accessible.
Fantastic. I think that makes holistically inspiring as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. When you think about innovation, what comes to your mind?
Doing with less resources, better quality and better experience for stakeholders.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Malhar. I think you killed it when it comes to rapid fire. So thank you so
Do I
much.
get a do I
You,
get
you do get a you do get a
hamper?
hamper. You will get a hamper. I'm going to save it for the
Okay.
end. We have one more segment lined up, and for which we'll take a small break and come back to you. And in this segment, I'm going to be bringing in a third guest, a second guest rather. I'm not a guest, but I'm going to bring in a second guest who's going to share a little bit of perspectives when we talk about enterprise startup collaborations as well. So we'll just come back from a short break and then
Sure.
go right into it.
Yep.
All
Sounds
right.
great.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
In a world where retail convenience meets community, there's one name that stands above the rest. Welcome to the 7-Eleven Global Solution Center. We are all about making lives better for our customers, our community, and our employees.
And what does it take to make lives better?
A good cup of coffee or a Slurpee. And your whole self. Your passionate self, willing to go the extra mile here and here. Your courageously vocal self. Whether you're sharing a bold new perspective or just grooving to your tune. Your entrepreneurial self, making the most of what you've got and sharing what you've got to enable more. Your game changer self, who flips a challenge into an opportunity and an opportunity into a win. Your determined self, who responds to every can we with a
We can.
whether you're chasing a deadline or a health goal. Your righteous self, standing by your principles, even when no one is watching. Your accountable self, taking ownership of your actions and results. Because when all of you come together, that's when the 7-Eleven magic happens. On Cloud 9? No. Come,
Join us on Cloud 11.
where we are making lives better.
All right, we are back, friends, from a small break, and today now we have another very interesting guest joining Malhar and I for this conversation. This segment is going to be focused around how enterprises and startups collab. We were speaking about innovation just prior to the last segment ending, so I wanted to touch upon this aspect because as you tap into the India talent and the India ecosystem, larger ecosystem of India, I see a very strong stakeholder, which is startups who are driving that value, working in partnership or in tandem with enterprises. And for that, we have a dear friend of mine and a founder of a very interesting company, Subramanya Rao, joining us as well. Thank you so much, Subbu, for taking your time and joining us.
Thank you, Abhay. Thank you for having me today.
Subbu, can you just talk to us a little bit about what Discover Dollar does? I've, of course, known you for, I think, 8-10 years now.
Yep.
Worked with you in various capacities. But if you can just share for the viewers a little bit of a perspective about what Discover Dollar does.
Yeah. So, as the name says, discover a dollar.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the business of discovering value for enterprises. To go more deeper, for a very large enterprises, there are like so many teams involved in this entire source to pay journey, starting from sourcing team who finds vendors, then there is procurement who onboards them, then there is a requisition team placing our orders, an accounting team looking into the grns and ensuring the posting happen, and the treasury team who makes the payments. So this entire journey, so a lot of different teams coming into play, different applications like Teams, Zoom in the initial conversation, then email back and forth of negotiation, contracts where important negotiations are done. Then the ERP systems like the SAPs and Oracles, right? And the payment systems. So there is both unstructured and structured data. So the historically in the previous world, only structured data was processed. So what Discover Dollar does using AI is enabling enterprises to unlock value which otherwise was not possible by looking into the entire unstructured data like the contracts, the emails, etc., and ensure they don't leave any leakages on the table, the money on the table, maybe in the form of pricing which was negotiated better, which is siloed in sitting in a procurement systems, but the accounting team has no visibility to it, or it may be a discount which was negotiated but they're not capturing that.
Right.
Right, so we have looked into more than 300 leakage points, having analyzed more than $1 trillion spent for hundreds of Fortune 500 companies and 1,000 plus use cases where money can be lost.
Fantastic.
And yeah, we help them find that and bring that. And we work on outcome based model. And I say that in the first year, typically, only when we deliver real hard dollar savings on the in their bank account is when we charge, and they move to a typically a licensing or other models which they prefer.
Fantastic point and fantastic set of model as well, right? Because I think it has worked out for me because we have collaborated in multiple situations in the past as well. I was working for multiple of those Fortune 500 enterprises too. So thanks for sharing that, Subbu. This conversation is going to be focused on how do we leverage, how do enterprise and startups work together in tandem to create uh, opportunities in white spaces that sometimes either of the parties has not been able to successfully do that, and for various reasons. uh, I've been an innovation leader in some of the large organizations, and I've realized that there are challenges and there are opportunity areas, and I wanted to tap into both of your intellectual capabilities, your knowledge and your wisdom that you've had over the years to get a little bit of a perspective on this. So Malahar, maybe we can start off with you. We spoke about innovation as the last rapid fire question, and your thoughts around this. Uh, do you see large enterprises, or do you see value in large enterprises partnering with startups?
Absolutely. And many organizations are doing it, and including 7-Eleven on the US side. I talked about use case for testing the drone delivery. That was also a startup whom we tested with. It's natural that every organization, when it is about solving a problem and there is solution already exists, which is proven,
Right.
the enterprises are looking to partner with the startups. I think it comes down to, I mean, we are also trying to do that in India as well, as you know. But it's important how we bring that to reality is depends on what use case you are trying to solve, and is it important for the organizations or not, and as well as what is the engagement model going to look like when we solve that problem together. So some of these are going to play out in a big broader enterprise context on how that partnership comes to life.
Makes a lot of sense. In fact, so you have also worked with a lot of enterprises now, right? Over the course of about 8-10 years now.
Yep.
Yeah. Uh, have you encountered any challenges per se? I mean, I've seen as an innovation leader, I've seen challenges, in creating that perfect marriage of sorts between the enterprise and the startup. But I've typically come across challenges. These could be around IP, these could be around IP ownership,
Mhm.
these could be around models that Malahar spoke about. There could be a bunch of other challenges as well, right? Even sometimes at the contractual stage itself. Uh, and of course, those are very, very critical ones because uh, there's a very large enterprise at play as well, and the IP of a startup at play as well, right? Both are equally critical. So, how could you share any perspective about some of the challenges that you have faced in your journey?
Yeah. So the IP and the nuances, what you have to go through the enterprise is always a challenge.
Hmm.
But the larger picture, having worked with a lot of Fortune 500 companies and having worked with a lot of founders who work in enterprise space, the biggest of the challenges, if I have to bring out, is startups, if I have to say, are extremely good problem solvers,
Hmm.
not necessarily great at navigating through the nuances of an enterprise relationships and figuring out how to sell probably.
Hmm.
But they know what's the problem. If a real problem is given, they can go really solve it in a very efficient and a good way. That's what I've generally seen as. So the biggest challenge is always on the way to get into an enterprise, where enterprise expects the general how a large companies would do the onboarding, the selling process, which enterprises may not be well versed with. But
Hmm.
if that is being addressed, there is a great way to efficiently solve some of the toughest problems by startups. Yeah.
Mala, do you agree? Do you want to add something to it?
Yeah, probably. That's very true. I have been an entrepreneur as well.
Yeah.
Navigating and finding the decision makers and influencing is not easy unless you are a big enterprise. But if need to talk about what are the other challenges, probably I might add a few more. Is when you are an enterprise, right? Again, if you go back to the Rubik's cube I talked about, the risk, the the risk aspect is going to come into play on, let's say, if this is going to be my critical platform to run or mission critical applications or decision making, am I with the right partner who has a longevity in the market and um, who is not going to go out of business in the first
Yeah.
place, right? That's a big risk for the enterprise. That's one thing enterprises do look at, in terms of, when they engage with the startups, the scale and the size and the longevity, the funding, who are behind that. Some of those things do play out in the decision making.
Hmm.
The other one I can think of is in today's world, especially for large enterprises, because some of the small and mid-sized enterprises are okay to let go of the data in a different environment with certain contractual regulations and rules and the penalties, but not large enterprises, because an event is much more damaging than the value itself, right?
Hmm.
So enterprises love to keep the data within their environment. So are you solving the problem for enterprises from the startup perspective? Are you building a SaaS solution? Or are you building a SaaS and a PaaS solution as well, which could sit on my infrastructure too? Also matters in the startup world on how you can partner with enterprises.
Makes a lot of sense. In fact, uh, there's so many frameworks and models over the years that have come in, from incubation to acceleration models to venture studio models and so on and so forth now, right? That's sometimes equally challenging on the enterprise side to figure out, what compliances, what kind of metrics and frameworks that can work out well to actually measure outcomes and value proposition, right? Sometimes people get lost in that maze of doing innovation for the sake of innovation. Like we mentioned earlier, we discussed about technology being looked at as the outcome rather than a value lever, right? Uh, on that point, we spoke about IP as well. How important is IP for 7-Eleven in from a India or a global standpoint, as well as a large enterprise and a GCC, while partnering with startups, and looking at these collaborations from an IP lens?
Um, I mean, that's easy answer. IP is critical for 7-Eleven. And if you look at it, convenience business is very competitive.
Right.
And if you look at our tech strategy itself, is all in-house tech.
Hmm.
Most of it. That's how we solve our technology problems. So the reason why we do that is also because of IP. We want to control our IP. It's a very critical, and the compliances around that is also very critical for us. So that's why I was talking about engagement models. What engagement models we are going to work with are going to be critical factor. And you also talked about legal and some of the compliances. It takes a long time to get through.
True.
So as the largest convenience retailer out there, our IP is very critical for us.
Very
And
true.
the engagement model matters.
Makes a lot of sense. In fact, in more often than not, I've always encountered these kind of situations that it's not the question about the intent. It is just a question about the scale at which an enterprise or GCC operates. That they are worried about not following the compliances to the T, and that leading to mishaps or situations pertaining to the stakeholders, including the shoppers or consumers at the end of the day, right? And that leading to public listed companies having a tanking of their, tanking of their share rates as well, right? So in these scenarios, something that I've noticed has worked out, and of course that's not an easy implementation as well, is a sandbox environment, right? Where it becomes easier for those partnerships to be explored in a safer environment before it's even thought of being explored at a commercial level,
Makes
But-
sense.
right?
Yeah.
So I would want to ask both of you this question as well. Maybe one of you can go first. Is the key advantages of the unique cultures that both organizations, both types of entities bring in, right? From a GCC or large enterprise standpoint to a startup, and when they collaborate, what are the learnings for each other? What are the benefits? Of course, there's commercial outcomes that is the biggest benefit. But outside of that, are there any nuances that you think are key benefits that most people don't even think about, or is not often indexed very highly?
Yeah. So specifically speaking about GCCs and the startups, right? So few things where I see a lot of value is especially we starting our journey in GCC space. We worked only with GCCs to begin with. Now we work with standards. So GCCs primarily have specific objectives, like one of them being cost savings and also capability building. And there are technology teams based here along with business services teams like finance, procurement, HR, etc. So we have seen when a startup is able to deliver a value in these spaces, they're able to directly interact with the real stakeholders, work very collaboratively, and get things done much faster. If I have to bring our experiences from the public domain where people have spoken about, right? In Target, when we had to build an API to connect and get the data, we worked with their technology teams here as well. For Carrier, again, when we did procurement teams were based with the GCC, we were able to drive that with their innovation and AI team. So the partnership became more stronger, and the nuances of businesses could be passed on easily, so that the outcome delivery became much easier for us. So that's one biggest advantage I saw, specifically working with GCCs in for a startup, right? Based in, that's a like an advantage we looked into. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
There are obviously different learnings for different sides of the team, but how they operate is slightly different, right? And the metrics, what you're tracking is different. For startups, it's the pace matters. How you do it doesn't matter. Pace matters. Get the solution out. For corporates, I think compliance and the risk comes first, especially when you're trying out new things, because you already have a large business, right? Protecting that business becomes your first priority.
Very true.
So which might come across as moving slow, while startup wants to move at 10,000 miles an hour. We got to make sure our environment is safe and secure, and we are trying to solve the real world problem. So the, when you bring those together, there is learning from both sides on how you can be more agile,
True.
which all the enterprises are trying to create that mindset, right?
Right.
In a sandbox environment, especially, how do you segregate this from the rest of the organization, create a sandbox environment to bring the speed? So that's a big learning for sure, and for the enterprises. But on the other side, as Subbu talked about the first point, right? Startups learning how enterprises work and what their success looks like is different compared to just getting the solution out there. So that's where coming together to the middle point is going to be the key. And the other aspects of learning, I would say, being on a startup side is you end up pivoting, learning use cases when you work with the enterprises. What you thought about as a product at the beginning, and you actually deliver it, it's going to be completely different because you pivoted so many times, because you learn by working with the enterprises and solving those use cases. You pivot quickly, and that's experience what the startups can get from the enterprise, the real use cases and the real world on how you run things, and solve the problems for real customers.
True. I mean, I think when startups start out, in fact, I've been a founder for a couple of years now.
Yep.
So I'm also experiencing on both the sides now. Uh, I think we start off as founders, we start off with about, let's say, 5 or 10 variables that we are think are critical variables. And that's a bias, because when we get into the actual deployment of it, then there are 10,000 more variables that start coming. And of course, not all of them are critical ones, but maybe another 10 critical ones that we had not factored in initially, even though we may have done our own due diligence and research around this, always comes in. And that makes a big change in how we perceive the product and evolve the product from there on towards the later iterations. Fantastic point by both of you. One last question to each of you. So we'll ask you this: what is the biggest myth that you have come across in terms of the startup enterprise collaborations and working together that you would want to bust for the audience?
Um, Maybe the tough one. So, so what I've seen for sure is it's not like a magic wand where enterprise and startups can make it happen. It's not like a marriage made in heaven. So there is definitely a lot of background work to happen. So one thing which I can see is when there is a good amount of hand holding or a program management happens from the enterprise side, this relationship really blossoms and becomes really good. And typically we've seen when either innovation teams or even maybe like a champion internally carved out specifically to drive special projects, when they navigate and drive these complexities for startups, that has created a huge value. But it's not like suddenly things happen out of the blue.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, I regret using the word marriage now. I realize that startup enterprise collaborations more often than not are for limited time period only. I've rarely seen a startup enterprise collaboration touching 10-15 years. Yours might be one exception. I know one of your client has
Yeah.
been an ongoing
Right.
fight for the last 10 years. More often than not, those partnerships don't engage for that long, right? And that's why marriage is probably a bad analogy to give. A partnership is a better analogy. But thank you so much, Subbu, for sharing that. Malahar, this last one is for you. 7-Eleven, like you mentioned, is interested in solving for a lot of these problems. You're continuously working on transformation and newer innovations and so on and so forth, apart from the core ops. In each of these areas, you probably require some kind of potential collaborations as well. Any areas that you would want startups to reach out to you for?
I think probably I can think of maybe two or three. One of the area can be, as I think of it, contact center transformation, driving efficient, first call resolution, kind of how do you create that environment and transformation in the contact center is one thing we would be interested to probably listen and understand. The other one can be in the space, because we are 24/7 operation, and we have 14,000 stores in US alone. The employee safety or the store associate safety matters. So any solutions around store associate safety is another set of use cases we would be willing to understand and see how those problems are being solved. And any core retail operations, including Discover Dollar, kind of would be good to understand how they operate, at least to see if there is a possibility of collaboration or not.
Fantastic. So there you guys have it. Malahar has just shared 3 amazing use cases. And in case you guys are interested, please feel free to reach out to Malahar or someone from the team that Malahar will probably eventually let you know. But yeah, I will feel free to reach out to us, and we'll definitely be happy to evaluate those applications. And if you reach out to me, I'll obviously be sharing some of your interesting ones with Malahar and team as well. So thank you so much, Subbu and Malahar, for joining and sharing so much amazing, amazing insights and perspectives. I think the audience is going to go back very enriched. And on that note, I just want to make sure you spoke about the hamper. I've got one for you, both of you. So I'm going to do that. Give me 1 second, please.
Thanks for having me today, Abhay. It was a pleasure for me to be here and have
Uh,
this conversation.
No, I'm sure I loved it. I found it enriching, and I'm sure the audience did it as well. So thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, Malad. This is by Nirantara, which harmonizes India's ancient narratives and crafts with contemporary living, creating sustainable treasures that preserve cultural heritage while ensuring artisanal traditions thrive for generations to come. So the Rajpatra that you see here is also one of those ancient traditions that they've brought to life today. So that's that. And Subbu, this is for you by Nirantara again. Thank you.